So I feel like over the past 4 years in high school and in middle school, I've kind of been caught very quiet, and because of that, I fuck, dude, my identity has been fixated to become this quiet kid archetype, and how I'm very socially awkward, which actually tends to be the case. But as I'm starting to become an adult, uh, when I turn 18, I want to become my new self. I no longer want to be attached to this characteristic that I'm socially awkward, that I'm quiet, and I'm introverted, because there are so many moments that I have left on the table simply because I used my introversion as an excuse to not do that opportunity, to do that thing. Like asking a question in my high school classes when I was genuinely curious, but I didn't have the courage to ask because I thought that it was obvious, that I was too stupid to understand, and that if I asked it, people were going to judge me, which they will always judge. Or the moment where I was at this networking um, field trip, and then I was I had this thought that I wanted to meet with one of the people that were in the networking place and ask if they could review my resume. And that never came to fruition simply because I used my introversion, that I'm socially awkward, as an excuse. And it's really heartbreaking and hard to overcome, especially as, you know, an Asian family, coming from an Asian family where I struggle growing as a child. I was very emotionally neglected. I didn't go out all the time, and I have a speech impediment. And but I no longer want to have speech impediment. I don't want to be socially awkward. I don't want to hide away because I'm introverted. And I'm simply not changing my identity just so that I can be more extroverted, but simply because I want to be more myself. Because you definitely hear this quote a lot, is how to be free is to be cringe. And I really slowly started to understand it when I saw my past regrets. Because there were moments where I could have been happier, where I could have smiled, where I could have said something to another person, but instead I didn't, because maybe there was another person near me that I didn't want them to hear me say. And I want to connect this to the 2025 movie called Obsession, horror movie. Just watched it, and I heavily relate to Bear, which is the main character. And he's this nice guy archetype, you know, he's introverted, socially awkward, and just because he's that, he feels entitled to love Nikki, to be nice, to be considered nice, and be this person who's entitled to everything. But he never takes the effort to actually try. He never took the effort to try to understand Nikki as a person. And so, at the end of the day, even if you've had a very rough childhood, you've been emotionally neglected, it's definitely some part of your responsibility to try to grow, to learn, to understand, and heal from that trauma. And you definitely don't want to blame 100% of your parents for what they've done, because some part of you has that responsibility to change it. And I'm not really here to impend this toxic motivation to change yourself, to bring all this anger out from your trauma and use it to become a new person. For me, I believe that healing is very, very slow. And so what I was able to do today was meet up with one of my gym buddies that I recently met. And I also noticed that there were some gym machines outside of the gym that I was going. And then as I entered, I asked one of the staff inside in the front table, like, what was going on, bro? And he was like, oh, we're getting new machines. And I was like, oh shoot, I thought you guys were removing them. And honestly, even if that was a very small interaction or awkward, I took it more as an intent to understand the environment, the vibe of the environment, and overall improve my confidence that the small things are the things that truly matter. So, for those who are struggling socially, for those who are struggling with a very harsh childhood, those who are emotionally neglected, it's not your fault. And I believe you guys can heal. Therapy is there if you need it. And remember that the small things, the small interactions matter. And it only happens if you truly take the initiative to try. But don't expect you to be perfect. Definitely there will be mistakes. And it's okay to start from the bottom. As simple as making a gesture to the gym staff when you're leaving, when you're entering, anything that is small, it will be a big improvement. Yeah, that is my story. And I'm on my way to embarrassing myself more.